The following program is suitable for all audiences.
Hey, are you all ready to get this started?
Going live.
Listener discretion is advised.
Keep your head out there. They're going to do dumb. Play our game. All right? Play hard, but stay poised.
3, gonna be savage. 2, grab your shit. 1, do it.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Well, I think, we're probably a little bit more whole than we were for sure last season. I think we've still had, interesting changes in lineups, in particular in our offensive line. So, hopefully we can, stay a little bit more consistent as far as lineups. And, we have to be right on top of it. And when we are, we win. We've lost some close games. We've won some close games. And, I'd rather see that be more consistent in the second half.
This is Bears Hour Live with Draft Dr. Phil Ottochian. I am Aldo Gandia, along for the ride to press some buttons and moderate the discussion. If you're listening in live, I hope you can get over to mixlr.com. That's where our chat room is. The link is on our Twitter page at Bears Barroom and the Facebook pages of Bears Hour Live and Bears Barroom. Come join the group, share your opinions, and ask the doctor some questions. All right, let's get the doctor out of the waiting room. Phil, how are you, brother?
How you doing tonight, Aldo?
I am fired up. You and I have not prepared one bit for this show, but that's usually what makes it a great show because we just talk like a couple of guys just met up at a bar room, had a beer, and plus we've got several people on the chat room ready to engage with you, so I think we're going to be in really good shape.
Yeah, we're going to depend on the Barflies. The Barflies have stepped up, Aldo. We've sent them on some side missions. We're asking them to go out there and do some damage to the ebb and flow of Hallis Hall and the national narrative, media. And I think Barflies are starting to step up. People are starting to rise to the top of, as far as my followers and your followers and Barflies. The more loud and the more energy you bring to the table to help resurrect what the Chicago Bears should be, the better. Twitter is a place and a platform that I believe is amazing. I would never even know Aldo Gandia without it, or a Lauren Cox, and a lot of these new writers, Chris Armstrong, Alec, Schroeder, Kier. How would I know Kieran, in Ireland? How would I know my boy Sandy Tom in Scotland, Bear Girl in Canada? How would we know these people? Through this avenue and Bears Barroom, Aldo, opening the doors to many of the folks that deserve a voice and deserve to be a part of this Barflies Unite. And really ultimately started with Trubisky now from you, Aldo, and the hashtagging that up, and I ran with that. And then we got the Firefox campaign going on, and really ultimately it's to regroup and really take control of a team that needs help and not to be a punchline anymore by the national media.
Well, where does this team need help, Phil? Starting the second half of the season, 3-5 record. Can they reverse that to 5-3 or even better? And clearly, I know what you're going to say. They need help with offensive coaching and on down the line, the offensive side of the football. But let's dig into the weeds here, right here at the top of the show, and give me your thoughts on some of the things that Dow Loggins has to start running, because that's been something that folks are talking about in the chat room, that we got some Twitter questions about. What does Dow Loggins need to do? Is he going to open it up? And the question was, is he going to open it up? But we know the answer. He has to open it up. What would you like to see him call, and what would be the benefits of your game plan if you had the microphone, the headset in your head, and you were calling plays to the young quarterback?
Well, I hate to go back to this. It started with my own personal campaign to have an open competition, because I believe that always breeds success. You put Trubisky behind the 8 ball because of that. You saw the grand drop and knee pass, the giraffe gaff, as you coined it, which is in the Firefox song. So the giraffe gaff would have never happened had the open competition, because therefore the golden ticket, inviting Willy Wonka's people into the room, would end up seeing that Trubisky was the winner, and then you move forward, and that's what professional coaches do. Some of these stooges that they hire really aren't as good as the local high school guy. Each individual person is made and has their own makeup, but when I look at this roster and I look at the personnel, I don't see, they got no receivers. I see the lack of creativity and predictability being the biggest hindrance to this offense, because what do they have? They got a great defense. They got good special teams. They got great running backs. They got a good interior offensive line that's banged up. They got average to below average tackles. They got a numbers game at tight end, which they lost one of their best weapons. And they have average receivers that some of them are unknown. So how do I take that with a young football player? I get out of what I want to do, and I do what is best for Mitchell Trubisky, and that's getting in the spread, spreading out the field, running from shotgun, which I've been calling for since August, Aldo. You have the best running back, in my mind, in the whole NFL in Jordan Howard. Is he the most versatile? No. He, pound per pound, is the best rusher, I believe, in the NFL as far as taking on tacklers and making plays. He is a home run hitter. We've seen it. If it wasn't for 2 penalties that were phantom against the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears might be in first place in this division, really looking at this. So I would ride the back, just like the promo for the show said, of the monster, of the maniac, Jordan Howard, and really get into that shotgun and stop being predictable of when you're going to use Tariq Cohen. It's so easy to see what their plan is when they go in tight and they come into the eye. They're running a counter play. They're running an isolation play. Now I'm asking you to do 3-step drop game. Make that fullback block that end. Let the tight end release through the seam. And make a 3-step drop, simple slants, get them comfortable, and throwing on first down. Throwing out of the predictable I formation that you've run. You've not done anything to counter what it is you're doing. And I see it over and over and over again. You saw one action pass off the tight formation against, I believe, Atlanta in the first game where Shaheen had his first and only touchdown. That play hasn't been used at all. Use your talents. Where is Shaheen? Why isn't he running down the seam? I would be using Brown and Shaheen running down the seam, dragging Deion Sims, getting these tight ends involved, getting him comfortable. If you're going to run this tight game, and you're always showing it, Aldo, you got to throw downfield out of it. You lost one of your best weapons, which you saw. They isolated Zach Miller on that play, and you saw the dime pass and the asterisk catch for 6. It was clear touchdown. No one could deny it. The reality is now you lost that talent. Now you're down less. Now you have to counter what you've shown on tape. We talked about self-scouting. How does Dowell handle himself? This guy has no feel for situations. 3rd and 1. Game's critical. You throw twice when you have pound for pound the best back in the NFL to pick up one and give you more downs and shots to score. That kind of stupidity happens too many times for us to say, well, he had a bad game. No, he's awful. And the only way to counter that is for somebody else to either kick him in the ass and tell him he's got to change this, give the play calling over to Ragone. He's a former NFL quarterback himself. He should know this playbook inside and out. And what does Mitchell feel comfortable with? The last thing is the spread read game. And I've gone back and forth with people on this. This is so simple. And it's so difficult for defenses to handle that when I tweeted out the 40-something yard run, I was talking about Trubisky's athleticism. I wasn't talking about the play, to be very clear. I was talking about using that dynamic athlete that you have to threaten the defense with his legs. And by putting the ball in Jordan Howard's belly, you are now forcing those linebackers to step inside because they're afraid of that power. When he pulls that ball out of his belly and runs towards that outside linebacker to the front side and he's facing him, staring right at him, that linebacker's got a choice. I am going to tackle Mitchell or come at Mitchell, or I have to be aware of Tariq Cohen, who's jet sweep and getting in pitch relationship. Now you've really put 3 phases of their defense on alert because you're pitching off of him, the outside linebacker. You've already made the inside linebacker step and false step. And this is just one play, Aldo. If you think about, the big Colin Kaepernick conspiracy, one thing no one could deny is when he went up against Green Bay, he was giving them fits. And it just so happens we're playing Green Bay. It doesn't matter who we were playing. This play and this kind of philosophy is what Mitchell does and has done in college. Kaepernick would threaten the outside linebacker or defensive end, and he would take it off down the football field, gaining big chunks. At what point, even if you're giving to Jordan Howard, at what point do all of them start cheating up? And now you're able to throw off that game and really make this game a hell of a lot more easy for your young signal caller by doing what he does. Not the crap show that you've shown. I caught myself, Aldo. You got to be proud. not the crap that you've put on tape. You need to throw all of that out, recognize your talents now. Daniel Brown, we talked about on 100 Proof. Guy was taking a step last year. They totally completely threw the kid off. He was a second thought. I think he was even inactive twice. Clearly, the guy was taking a step. You should have been using him. Instead, you're forcing Shaheen in there. What is Shaheen? Let's find out. Let's get down the football. You see Trey McBride, 92 yards, 4 catches, running his routes, getting where he needs to be, delivering the ball. Are we going to build off that? Or are we going to have Trey McBride inactive? That's what this coaching staff has done so many times, including with our own Jordan Howard, who, remember, guys, didn't even start for the first 4 games. Cameron Meredith was an afterthought. The best players haven't played. They can't identify the talent, so they can't identify matchups that are going to be sufficient to break down an opponent. And that is a Coach Phil Ottochian special 101 football, is finding matchups that we're going to isolate on. And when you look at this Green Bay defense getting body rocked on Monday Night Football, it's because they've decided to take on the matchups and really use that against them. And I really believe the Bears have a huge advantage by their offensive and defensive lines to really take advantage of this team and a team without Aaron Rodgers.
Phil, on our chat room, Benjamin Drizgula is concerned about the shotgun snaps from Cody Whitehair. Where is your level of concern with his snaps this season? And do you think that's something that can be corrected the second half of the season? And also, Trey Busy, our man Alec Lifschultz, comments that Garasu just gets overpowered at the center position. I mean, we saw it in his rookie season. He was out all of last season, and in the little bit of action that we've seen him play this season, it seems like he gets overpowered still. So, let's talk a little bit about that center position because, as you said, let's see more out of the shotgun. Well, will that present some problems to this team if we're not getting, as you have stated before, good play out of the most important offensive line position, the center?
Well, your best offensive lineman is Cody Whitehair. I'm going to answer my boy Drizgula's first. I'm not concerned whatsoever. In fact, tonight I'm playing flag football and I'm teaching a kid prior to the game how to shotgun snap. If there's an issue with shotgun snap, and I put the video up before of why Cody Whitehair's errant snaps were occurring, he was putting all his weight on the tip and the nose of the ball, not using his thumb to slide back. He's bouncing down, which ultimately takes the delivery of the ball through your backside up into the air. So if you're not consistent of where you're grabbing that football and sliding it across the turf backwards up towards your butt, then you're going to see this kind of errant snap. This should be easy, like your first time driving a stick shift is rough. But once you get it, it becomes old habit to the extent where you know exactly where to raise the clutch and exactly where to drop the car into gear. That's how the center snapping, long snapping should be. It's the easiest thing to coach. It's the easiest thing to all of a sudden get comfortable with. I don't care what anybody tries to tell you. That should never happen, and I'm not worried about it because in Baltimore, we saw it, and then it stopped. I don't think we saw any more errant snaps from Whitehair, so I'm not concerned about that at all. I think he went back and recognized the technique. They probably listened to the show, Aldo, when I broke it down because it was very clear to me what was going on and what the wrong technique was. So I'm not worried about him snapping the ball. As far as Garasu is concerned, I'm 100% with my boy Alec. What up, Trey Busy? Because I really believe that Garasu is stealing a roster spot based on performance in the preseason. He became a liability. I was one of the, if not the only, one of the loudest, Aldo can attest, vocalists about their plan. It seemed that they were going to start Hronis Grasu at center, Whitehair at guard, and go because Long was injured, and then go with Sitton. I thought that was the dumb move because he was a hindrance to what it is you're trying to do, especially when they run so many zone stretch plays. That center has to be an athlete. He's got to be powerful. He's got to be able to scoop and turn his ass and control that nose guard or get up to the second level and be strong. Garasu was somebody that other opponents would be predicting and attacking against him because of what Alec's saying. I completely agree with it. His weak base. He was so getting pushed back over and over again. There was just simply basic technique issues, let alone power, that he's just lacking. So right now, could he have been injured? I don't know. All I can tell you is that he was a liability. I don't think he should be active or on the round. I don't even know where he was these past few weeks. Has he been a healthy scratch, Aldo?
Yeah, I think
honestly,
he has.
So the guy's perform. I mean, somebody else needs to come in at center if this injury again, the John Fox arrogance is so apparent. We can't answer freaking questions of who's injured and who's going to be out, who's going to play. You're not giving an advantage. Just talk the truth and really tell your team that you believe in them, let alone your fan base. Let your team know, wow, coach is strongly recognizing the truth. It sends a message. It's a culture. It just, what advantage are you getting if Cody Whitehair's out? They're going to beat you up anyway. If Cody Whitehair's ready to go, let him know. There's nothing you're gaining on. I don't agree with any of that gamesmanship. How many games and playoff games have we won with all this gamesmanship? There's none. So it's time to get somebody in here that's going to be truthful. And I'm going off the tangent, but I get fired the hell up about Coach Fox and that arrogance, as you know, in the song. But I'm not worried about the center position if Whitehair's in. Grisou is definitely going to raise concerns because he's a liability.
Alec has suggested moving Whitehair to left guard, sitting at center, Kyle Long at right guard, and then he writes, he booms, drops the mic. What do you think about that lineup? You think that could work?
Well, here's my concern. Sitting, to me, is carrying too much weight, and thus he's very unathletic. Although there's one play I wanted to put up where he just absolutely shocked me that he was able to get out to the second level. Actually, it could have been a penalty, but he dives down, cuts a linebacker, gets him to the ground, does an excellent job on it. It was one play out of the guy being thrust into the center. If we're going to go into a power scheme, though, and we're going to bulldog people, which Jordan Howard could do either. He's the litmus of this all. He's the old engine. He is everything. Without him, this offense is a no-show. So give this man credit. Make sure Barflies are praising this guy because I see it easily going out the window. Let's not forget who is making this engine go, because without him, we don't have a win. As great as our defenses have been playing, this guy on tape is phenomenal, and he deserves the praise and credit that he deserves, because they're telling you, without him, Mitchell Trubisky will not thrive, and then we need this man in the game and pounding away. It might be the reason why they brought some other backs in today. I don't know, but if we're going to go to a power game, then I could see Sitton going into center and use that kind of lineup. But really, ultimately, when you're running that stretch, this kid Whitehair is absolutely phenomenal. He is your best offensive lineman, not even close. It's not even close, guys. Trust me when I tell you, as an offensive line aficionado, I love it. This guy is A+ talent. I'm giving him high praise. You can get screwed over with the snaps and really miss the inside games that are being played that Cody Whitehair is covering. Now, is he perfect? No. But he's damn near it. And he really plays with the attitude and athleticism that you just love out of your center position. So I'm kind of leery moving that guy because he is that good on tape, and really it shows. So without him in there, it's a detriment to the Bears. But you would have to change your philosophy. Is it a good backup plan? I could be sold on it. But if we're going to run power game, I just don't see Sitton being able to do that.
Lots of great discussion in the chat room about the offensive line. So I'm going to ask you this as kind of a wrap up to this topic before we move to other issues. Where do you, after this season, how do you prioritize the needs on the offensive line? Knowing that we just extended Charles Leno's contract at left tackle, that Bobby Macy is coming up, I think, on the option year of his contract. I think the Bears have an out to get out of Bobby Macy's contract in the right tackle position. And knowing that we have Whitehair, Long, and what Sitton is in his final year, and I think there's an out on his contract too. So if it's the end of the season, the Bears, let's say, are drafting anywhere between 10 and 20, are you looking for an offensive lineman in the first round? Are you looking for one in the second round? And if you are, which position on that offensive line would you most prefer to have?
Oh, Bobby Massey's been your worst offensive lineman. So to me, that was the reason why they went out and tried to sign this kid Wagner, who ended up going to Detroit, I believe. They also were involved with former Detroit offensive tackle. I don't know why. Reese. Why am I forgetting this kid's name? Out of Iowa.
Riley Reef.
Riley Reef,
correct.
Yeah. So they obviously recognized there was a need there. And when I watched the tape, Massey's just that guy that puts his mouthpiece in his mouth and holds it there. As a coach, I always watched my kids, and the guy that like held his mouthpiece in his hand, like thinking, was almost scared. That's why I look at Matt. He just makes too many mistakes, just too many. Can't cut off on the backside. Just a lackadaisical effort sometimes, and then he'll surprise me and he'll fire out. But the lack of consistency there, when you're measuring both the tackles, Leno is a more consistent football player. He does some things you like, and then he, is a C plus B minus type player that they paid because he plays to the whistle, and he's not gonna kill anybody with his toughness. He's athletic. He's got good feet. He's got good long arms. He's a good pass pro guy. He's an average run blocker. He misses I could embarrass players, Aldo, if I would put all the mess ups on. I try to play hopscotch with who I'm going to show to the fan base because I don't want to destroy people. But these are the things that I can't believe continue to happen. And that's a coaching issue because, again, we talked about this before. Your job as a coach to be a master manipulator and ultimately get the best out of your football players. And how do you do that? Peer pressure trumps it all, guys. If you have a relationship with your players where you could joke around and know when it's time to turn on and be serious, and you break their balls by what is transpiring from nobody can hide, the tape, and you embarrass them, you ultimately get the most out of your players. If you're a cerebral guy and a cerebral coach and you don't want to cause any problem, we've lived this, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. These coaches that are patting guys on the back instead of getting in their face, this kind of energy doesn't work well here. And when I look at these two tackles, they're both similar in their behaviors. They're lackadaisical, they make errors, but one is a better pass protector than the other, and the other's maybe a little bit more physical at the point of attack in Massey than Leno, but Massey's ultimately terrible. So when I'm looking at this draft, I got to get a right tackle, guys. That's got to be the thing. I would have, if I was the head coach, Long would have been left tackle 2 years ago. That would be him. He'd be the most dominant left tackle in football. Everyone would be like, wow, they freaking stole this kid. He's so athletic and strong, has the right moxie. He has everything you want in a left tackle, yet they couldn't do it. That's another coaching error. Let me be clear on that. There's no doubt. I've had offensive line coaches from around the NFL, 3 of them. One of them currently coaches one of the best offensive tackles in football who recently got hurt. So I won't say anyone's name. You could do the research. Said to me on the beach in Rhode Island. True story, Aldo. Just happened to bump into him, former Bears offensive line coach. The fact that, this is his quote, the fact that they don't have Kyle Long at offensive left tackle is a travesty to Chicago. And this is a guy that coached in Chicago. You're speaking to the choir, coach. I can't believe it. That's just one. I've had several. Some of the best offensive line coaches including my father, saying the same thing. They can't figure that out. So to say I could fix this, I believe you could, but they're not going to do it. And whether Kyle Long wants to, I always go back to that quote from Tom Coughlin, Barflies. If you haven't seen it, it's making players do what they don't want to do to be the best and become the best players they possibly could be. That's what a real head coach does. We have a fraud. We have an Aaron Lemming as our head coach, okay? I'll call him straight out here. You play both sides of the freaking fence to try to cover all your bases, to try to placate your point so you could then screenshot it and result back to it. That, my friends, is John Fox. Cover all your bases, give the media, give the fans nothing. I'm better than you. I know more than you. And ultimately, it becomes a clown show on Monday. And you could fix this by the offensive line. So I think the long answer, the Italian answer to the question is offensive line is 1A or B on the list of priorities in my mind, because everything, as Shane and myself and you have agreed with us on, is about building around Mitchell Trubisky. Building around Mitchell Trubisky. No defense. It's time to build this offensive lineup. Wide receivers, another tight end in free agency. Whatever you got to do, you have plenty of money. You need to get, if you're going to run the free agent route, you better get the best offensive tackle you can. You better replace Sitton. Get another guard in here that's a maniac. That's a wild man. Get them. Maybe Cush is coming back. Whatever it is, you got to get it, because that was a huge loss. And you mentioned that, Aldo, on the 100 Proof. Eric Cush was somebody I believed was so much better than some of the guys that played in front of him, which is another showcase of this coaching staff. Just not knowing personnel and playing the best has never been their number one priority or number one rationale at the end of the day.
Phil, just real quickly, Raphael Tucker reminded us about Jordan Morgan, and he asked whether there's any hope in developing this young man. If I recall correctly, you were fairly high on him as a late draft pick to the Bears. He's on the practice squad. Do you think that this is a guy that maybe not even next year, but maybe 2 years down the line, that he could be a starter potential, or based on the limited amount of time that we've seen him play, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Jordan Morgan is one of these.
Excuse me, Frankie just corrected me. Jordan Morgan is on IR, not the practice squad.
Yes, he is on IR. Frankie and Raphael Tucker, two of my favorites. Jordan Morgan is somebody I thought, coming out of a small school, had powerful punch and athleticism. Reminded me of Larry Allen coming out of Sonoma State. That kind of mauling, athletic power base. Again, the transition to offensive lineman in the NFL is tremendous. And Aldo really made a home run hit listening back. I believe it was 100 Proof, where you talked about the CBA and the lack of practice reps and the practice time, allowing these players to work on technique and work on live drills. It really is setting offensive line play back years. And if you don't have Dante Scarnecchia and some of these Bob Wiley and some of these offensive line gurus out there, then you're really not going to see that jump. Now, this guy, Washburn, I don't see. Does anybody believe in the offensive coaches? I don't see it moving forward. I don't see improvement. So I'm never going to sign off on, Jordan Morgan was a wasted pick. I see the talent. I was very high on him. In fact, someone I respect, Emery Hunt, had him as a second-rated offensive guard in the whole draft, getting in the 5th round. There's talent there. we've seen this happen before. A kid goes to town in the off season, has the fake injury or whatever, they put him on IR, and he really gets into the playbook, the terminology, the expectation, and the weight program, and really could turn around and become something special. My hope, I can't give you 100%, but I know the foundation of what it is I want in an interior offensive lineman. Raphael, Jordan, Morgan has that. So it's up now to this staff being fired and getting someone in here to untap that potential and really move forward with it. Because let me tell you, he is a much stronger, more physical football player than a Hronis Grasu is. And if that's a given, and he's more athletic than Compton or Soul. So the guys they have playing up there, really ultimately, I don't know. And one thing other about the offensive line that no one really talks about because it hasn't gotten a shot, but this kid Soul is a much better right tackle than Bobby Massey in my book. When I watched him in the preseason, there's technique sound, get into the second level, cut off, being more athletic. I would love to see him, not wishing any injury on anybody, but get some opportunity and reps at the right tackle position. I just think he's a better, consistent football player than a Bobby Massey is, and I think that would help the young rookie because Massey has been aloof at best on the right side.
All right, we're a little past the halfway point. I want to talk about the defense. The defensive line, give me your overall assessment on the defensive line play. We know that Akeem Hicks is a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, so let's not focus so much on him. Let's focus on the other guys on that line, and I'm particularly interested in hearing your thoughts on Jonathan Bullard, who has been getting more snaps the last 2 weeks as his glute injury has become better. He's feeling better, I should say. And so I'm interested in hearing what you think about Bullard and the other offensive linemen who are not getting front page news.
Glute gate, we called it. Yeah, I was a little hard on Jonathan Bullard after the last game because, to be perfectly honest, watching it through, I didn't see him flash his patented explosion in the play. But then after watching the tape several times now, Bullard showed me some growth. He caused the fumble against the running back Ingram. He was coming backside hustle play, which we hadn't seen. I see him loafing too much in weeks past for my taste, and you know how I feel about that. I'm not afraid to call players out, but looking at him, his technique was sound. He played a better game than I originally thought watching it first time through. And really, ultimately, hopefully that transcends to the next game. That's what I want to see out of this football player because he's flashed a little bit and then he goes into isolation and disappears. That kind of player, to me, is a rotational type of football player. And I want him to be something more. I also think Mitch Unrein has shown a lot of improvement from last season to this season. I wasn't expecting him. He wasn't making my final 53, to be perfectly honest. I thought Jay Howard was going to be on this football team, but he, obviously the story isn't. And Mitch Unrein has been a pleasant surprise. He's been on situations that forced other players, helping them to get sacks because of his presence and his tenaciousness fighting on the interior. He's been an impressive football player against the Saints. I thought he was very good, very sound technique and hustle on the backside. And you can't say enough about players that are hustling to the football. We talk about pursuit drills all the time. In the Baltimore game, I was hard on these guys. In this game, I felt like they were hustling to the football when they needed to, and that was impressive to see. Obviously, Vic Fangio has a different, whip with him when he's, coordinating his football team. To me, it seems the offensive side has no moxie, no whip with them, but the players are responding to the whip, and that's what they need. Ultimately, every kid from grade school on up needs that. And then you look at Eddie Goldman, the most underrated player on this football team. I always say in a 3-4 defense, the nose tackle is the most important position in all of it because it is the engine. It is the explosion of them to dominate the center, to destroy the offense's ability to gain ground on you. And Eddie Goldman has been quietly 1B to Akeem Hicks. Doesn't get the sacks. Not many nose guards do. So to see him work and work through, there's been a few games where he's loafed, but he's been tired, worn out. You could see they rotate Mitch in at nose behind him, and you're not getting the same kind of play out of Mitch that you do there. You know, I'd like to see John Jenkins thrown in there. I know he was active for the first time. Didn't really get to see much of him, if anything. I don't know how many snaps he got, although maybe one of the Barflies could grab that number, but I didn't see him out there enough. I don't remember even seeing Jenkins out there, but that resting that guy who's giving his heart and soul each and every play, which he is, you know, Eddie Goldman deserves a real gold star. You know, for his first half effort, I'm giving him an A+ effort. I'll give him an A effort. I'll take the plot for a few loafs that he had in there, but it was more being on the field so much, being tired and asked to do things like pass rush and run down a screen. The big man needs a break. We need to give it to him. Obviously, Akeem Hicks has done a tremendous job, as you said. Just want to say one thing about him. You know, there's a tone, there's an attitude, and there's a toughness. You know, if you could talk it, you know, that's one thing, and that will fall on deaf ears. And if you bring it, that is a whole nother thing. But if you bring it every down and every game and support your players like your brothers, this young man is my MVP. He is phenomenal. Between him and Jordan Howard, there is a building blocks right there, because those two players are astronomically good, that they really make others better than they are. And that football player, Akeem Hicks, makes Leonard Floyd better. He makes Sam Acho better. He makes Pernell McPhee better. So really, ultimately, the kid deserves a ton of credit for what he does on the football field. And then I'm trying to think, Roy Robinson Harris, I honestly was in love with this football player. I think the sky's the limit for this kid. The ceiling is very, very high. I'm pissed that he hurt his hamstring on a special teams play, I believe. The football player in that kid, I think there is, and I don't want to put any pressure on the kid, but I think there's a diamond in the rough. We'll start calling him Aladdin on 100 Proof, because I think that this kid can be special on the interior, on playing that 5 technique off the opposite side of Akeem Hicks, and then you're working with you're cooking with fire. I want to, hopefully this kid comes back. Hope maybe the Barflies give us an injury update, because John Fox isn't. So they didn't put him on IR.
No.
Right? So hopefully he's coming back after the bye. I would love to see him in this Green Bay game. I think he will be I'm going on the record. If he plays, he's going to be the talk after the game. Okay? Put that in your memory bank. I believe he's going to break out if he plays, because I believe his physicality and athleticism is coming off a bye week, ready to rock and roll. If he plays, that would be great. So, am I missing anyone else on the D line?
I don't think so. I do want to tell you that Frankie Myers looked it up, and he's got 2 snaps for Jenkins last week, which were the only 2 snaps he's had, all season. And then Frankie just posted that before playing 0 snaps last week, Roy Robertson Harris snaps have decreased incrementally since week too. So interesting. Now, I know that Robertson Harris had an injury, a week or two ago, so we'll keep an eye on that. But that's certainly something to talk about. And then before we move to the back seven, or the back eight, right?
Yeah.
Let's the question from Isaiah Robles. He asked if Bullard was a guy that jumps at the snap, who reads the snap, a snap jumper. I wanted to get your take on that.
Isaiah, I can't say enough about that guy. Isaiah Robles, appreciate the question. You know what? It's a great question that I had a discussion with a few Sundays ago at brunch before the game. I was talking with my father about Bullard, and I was concerned. It's weird that he brought that up, whether or not was his penetration power plays based on a guess of snap. And it really is something I don't have an answer to. I need more to see it. Is he consistent? Because that's a great question that I'm having internally with myself, Isaiah. It honestly feels like it is, to be perfectly honest. Until I saw the hustle play and the forced fumble and some of the delivery plays and extending the arms and maintaining that kind of sound technique where you're not getting scoop blocked and you're fighting outside and really working towards stopping the run, I hadn't seen that much from him. I see him as a penetrator, guessing, like you're saying, and that's where he gets his splash plays. So maybe that's why Fangio sat him down. Maybe that's what they're saying. You need to build quickness to the eye movement, to your movement of the football, not guess snap counts. So I will have that answer for you in the next 3 weeks. I'm going to watch Bullard very closely on this because I was asking myself the same exact question. So great question by him.
Excellent. Now, when we talk about the linebackers, I want to begin the discussion with Christian Jones, because to me, he's been the biggest surprise that we've seen. I think we can kind of look at every player in that linebacker group, and within a certain degree or two, we're getting what we expected. I expected a little bit more out of Leonard Floyd. I didn't quite expect as much out of Danny Trevathan, but it's all pretty close. But when it comes down to Christian Jones, oh my goodness. I mean, he has taken a quantum leap forward. Do you agree? And give me your assessment on him, what you've seen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I pointed it out. Here's a guy I loved coming out of Florida State. I know colleague, the smartest man in the bar room. He loved him too. We were hoping to get drafted. He ended up getting undrafted. I saw this guy able to rush the passer too, and was disappointed that they didn't do enough of that with him. When Mel Tucker, I think, was the defensive coordinator under Tressman, that's when we had Christian Jones. It was a Phil Emery pickup, I believe. And I would put up tape of Christian Jones playing inside backer and completely not reading the guard's head. And he would false step, not understand his discipline, and just basic reads. Because if that guard moves his head right, Aldo, and you're the left outside linebacker, guess where the ball's going? It's going outside because the guard is pulling. So he's got to step with his left foot down at a 45-degree angle and get ready to take on a tight end or somebody who's coming to scrape over the top. Or if the guard is stepping right out to you, especially in a 3-4, you're free. If you're in a 50 look, that guard is coming straight at you. You got to fire in there and know that play's coming right at you. Those things Christian lacked. I thought he was a natural pass rusher, could do inside game, but really needed to work on reading his keys and being physical at the point and not lackadaisical. Christian Jones worked his ass off. Christian Jones, Big Cheese, I have been so impressed with. One of my favorite football players. I talked about him being an afterthought signing. He really came in and look, he's kept Kwiatkowski on the bench because he's had his opportunity and is playing great football, reading his keys. Watch him read his keys, comes downhill, physical, taking on people, putting his face in there, going after the football. You could see he feels very comfortable in this system and this philosophy. I think he feels a lot more comfortable with Danny Trevathan calling the plays next to him. When they had him doing it, I felt like he was thinking too much. This is a guy that's just got to play football and see it and read it and go. And I don't think he can handle the play calling, which is my honest to goodness truth. Some players aren't good at it. They're great, Robins to Batman. And I believe Christian Jones is a little bit better than Robin. He's in there, really, we'll call him Iron Man, because he's in there getting his face dirty and he's making plays. Aldo, there's no doubt what he's able to do, even in isolated plays. There was a play, him and Kamara, one-on-one, Big Cheese doesn't take the bait. He waited like the mouse and got the kid and pushed him out of bounds. We saw that. I talked about it last Bears Hour Live, when he was one-on-one with Christian McCaffrey and is able to be a solo tackle him as a football player. Christian Jones of years past would be afraid and isolated to the extent where you wouldn't like what you were seeing in him, and you couldn't count on him to do what it is that the defense needed, whether it be in pass pro or in the run game. Now he's all over the place. He should have had an interception. If he was hustling, he didn't see the football. Christian's going to get one, I believe, at some point. He's been tremendous, Aldo.
Dustin Padilla wonders how much Fangio handling the coaching of linebackers has helped Christian Jones. I think that's a good question and something that probably has a lot to do with Jones's improvement. All right, so we are 10 minutes from the official end of the show, but we're probably going to run a little over.
We're gonna go longer. Let's
go longer. Absolutely. Give me your assessment, and you're doing a great job, Phil. Jesus Christ. Excuse my language, but my goodness, you are giving us not only football 101, but 201, 301, you name it. You're just really on fire tonight. I bet that you're on fire because you just finished playing some football. Before we talk about the rest of the linebackers and the defensive backs, why don't you share with the Barflies a little bit about what you were doing before we got on the air here?
Well, currently I'm icing my groin down, so we'll save that for Bears 100 proof. I'm out there, good old 22, number 22. I always wear 22. Coming out of retirement, not only to drop lyrics, Aldo, but to go out there and play football with some of the young kids that I used to that I coached that are now adults. Begged me to come out and play football with them, and it's been a rough night. Down 2 offensive linemen. We had these backups in, and I was running for my life. So, yeah, I was seeing the linebackers and the defensive back reading coverage. I needed an offensive upgrade. We needed an Inman to get traded in there because I could have used another wide receiver. But, yeah, it's been fun coming back out and being competitive and throwing the rock around.
Well, I got to get somebody out there with a video camera to video.
My wife's gonna go out and she's gonna bring the boys one night to a game, and she's gonna film it.
Awesome.
So she'll send it over to the Bears Barroom account.
Awesome. All right, let's continue on with the rest of the linebackers on this Bears unit, and overall, what do you think about their play, and pick a couple of players that you'd like to comment on?
Well, Danny Trevathan, as you said, I mean, to come back where he was in the preseason to playing, my expectation was he was going to be on the PUP. He was going to be one of these guys that was a signing, that was injured, and really had a bad wheel and wasn't going to, be who he is. And let's be honest here. If Akeem Hicks is 1A and Eddie Goldman's 1B, anybody telling you Leonard Floyd is a 1A or 1B is full of garbage. I'm telling you, Danny Trevathan is a difference maker in the middle. the shot he put on, as we dissected, and really felt like it should have been a fine and not a punishment, not a suspension, really set his narrative a certain way that it shouldn't be. It should be redirected to recognizing what he's doing on Sundays. I'm talking flying through holes and making himself skinny like a running back to fit in the alley and get after people. And not only is he's exploding into tacklers with great technique, pad level. This football player has shown me more. My feelings with Jarrell Freeman was, this guy's an elite inside linebacker, one of the best in the NFL inside like that. And Danny Trevathan was an average guy. That was my feelings from last season coming into this season. With a healthy Danny Trevathan and all, I felt like it was good, not great, good. This Danny Trevathan is a wild man. I'm talking, he is great. He deserves Pro Bowl, All-Pro recognition. I don't do enough tape work for Bears Barroom because I'm all over the place, guys, with twins, boys, and a family, and then football and work, and then writing songs.
Exactly.
I got a new song coming out. I'm excited about this song. It's
Awesome.
going to be fun.
Awesome.
But I'm still working. I don't know if it's going to be – it's not going to be ready for tomorrow, but it's coming next week. So that's a little teaser. But Danny T has been phenomenal, and I really have impressed with him. Nick Kwiatkowski was in there showing some improvement from last year. I really was concerned about Christian Jones taking on, and obviously those concerns were for naught. But Kwiatkowski's on the bench because of how good Christian has been playing. That's no slight at Kwiatkowski. I feel like he is a building block, and obviously with Freeman going out and Christian Jones is on a one-year deal, so you never know, who is going to get out there. That's someone I would love for Ryan Pace to give him a fair deal and offer right now. You got plenty of cap room. Start recognizing these homegrown talents and keep them in-house and build the foundation of what it is you're doing. Christian Jones is somebody that deserves to be paid. He deserves the recognition that he's getting. And Kwiatkowski, I believe, will be in the mix in the hunt next year because I feel like Jarrell Freeman is going to be an afterthought there and in the inside linebacker position. And John Timu has gotten in there and has shown flashes. The guy's an instinctive football player. Let's be honest. He's not the most gifted, and God didn't give him every bit of talent, but there's no question in the guy's determination and heart. He's a very good special teams player and someone that can get in there in a pinch, and I'm not going to lose sleep. I feel like he'll give you everything he's got type of football player, the Rudy Rudigers of the Bears defense right now. So those are the linebackers inside, and the defensive backs, Aldo, is that where we're going next?
You know it, brother.
So let's start on the corners position. Kyle Fuller has taken a 180 degree turn. He's not going to be perfect. There's no one that is. The corner position is one of the most difficult to play, especially in a passing league with all the advantage to the pass catchers. Kyle Fuller, to me, is our best corner and is playing as such. Some of the alley fills that he's done. He looks like a goddamn safety coming up in there and putting his face in there. He's fearless. He's playing the football well. His confidence is up. I can't say enough about him. The defense held Drew Brees out of the end zone. They didn't score any passing touchdowns. I felt like they did a great job. There was a couple blown coverages and an opportunity I thought Eddie Jackson had to steal a football that ultimately didn't hurt us in the end anyway. I think we got a turnover the very next play. But these guys are really coming together on a young level. And then you got Prince Amukamara. I believe he got a little banged up in the game. He's been a good signing here. They both have kept their bigger signing as far as commitment to the future is concerned, and Cooper on the bench. I know Cooper got hurt, but like the Wally Pipp story, here's Kyle Fuller stepping in and not giving away his starting position. Cooper played well and has played well too. So really, ultimately, this is something I haven't seen in Chicago since the days of Donnell Wolford and Lemuel Stinson and them playing the corner position with ball in the air and rapping at it and wrapping it down. Maybe Nathan Vasher and Charles Tillman as well. I can't skip them too. They had their time too. Were real consistent play, real not a fear going into the game where a check is going to the opponent because the defensive backs are so bad. These corners have done well in the nickel spot. You know, I feel as though Callahan continues to regress a little bit, Aldo. I felt like the Saints went into the game plan and they were going to attack him. They did. He missed a few tackles. He's not consistent in his physicality when his body is close. And what I mean by that, when you're in someone's side hip, he's worried about the ball instead of making a physical tackle and putting guys on the ground. I think Cravon LeBlanc is an upgrade there right now, and I know he got into the game. He actually played pretty good football there too, and you know how I feel like about Cravon LeBlanc from my Canadian friends up there. That football player, I think, should get some more time. It's going to be interesting how they line up their defense at the nickel spot. But you know what? Both players are good. I'm not skipping out on Callahan or anything like that. I'm just saying it clearly was New Orleans go. That's where they were going to attack. I believe Green Bay obviously is a different animal, but maybe their identified talent in Montgomery and Cobb will present a mismatch at that position, and you have to be aware of that going into the next game and mark that down and highlight it, who's playing nickel and how they're going to attack, because those two players on Green Bay are very talented. And if you want to get a rookie confident and comfortable, unlike in Chicago, you go to three-step game and you attack those slants and put that nickel on an island to cover them, slant out, slant up, give and go. So let's see how this plays out. We'll see if LeBlanc's in or if Callahan's in. But the secondary, as far as the corners and the nickel are concerned, I really feel confident in this football team against anybody in the league right now.
This is a question Frankie had. Were you surprised that Callahan or LeBlanc weren't traded before the trade deadline, given the depth that we have now at defensive back?
It's a great question because I really felt like getting T.Y. Hilton was a must. And I know a lot of people are, they already traded for Inman. You saw what T.Y. Hilton brings to the table. It's speed. And he's an excellent stem route runner. And he knows how to press and isolate that safety into making a decision and putting him in on a turnstile. Those kind of receivers we don't have, and that's what this team is missing, a big play threat that can go down the field and get separation on the safety or the corner or the nickel that's playing them. And ultimately, I look at those nickel corners, and you're right, Frankie, it's a great trading one of them out there to isolate on a bigger need, because you have two. And ultimately, you can then turn around and grab another. Putting them on an island out there to trade is actually a great question, especially when you have valuable depth there. I would have been more than willing to trade a Callahan and a pick to get a T.Y. Hilton here. So it's a good question.
Let me... I'm going to edit some of these questions in the chat room. But I have asked everybody what their expectations are, what predictions they have for the Bears upcoming game against the Packers. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to read some of their scores, some of their predictions first. And while you think,
Aldo, before we do that, one side,
absolutely,
because I don't want to skip over the safety position because I want to make sure something. It's not your fault. It's mine. I should have just went right into that. I got to step up in the pocket and deliver. So here, Eddie Jackson has been tremendous. This is a rookie. This is a guy that's not afraid. The stage isn't bigger than him. We talk about this in scouting terms, and when you assessed it and talked about it with the quarterback position and Deshaun Watson, that kind of athlete that's not bigger than the moment is important as we move forward in the analysis of Ryan Pace, recognizing these guys that he's bringing in here. Are they football players? Are they small school players? Or where or what they are? How do they respond to adversity? And Eddie Jackson has been somebody who, and I said on this show, Bears Barroom Radio, before Bears Hour Live, that I felt Eddie Jackson was my 65th, I believe, 62nd best ranked player in that draft. I thought he was a steal. Thought he was going to be something special here. I know Shane was worried about the rod in his leg, and I understood that. But there's something special about Eddie Jackson when he has a nose for the football. You can't say enough about a rookie being placed on an island out there as the last line of defense and how well he's played. I didn't want to overskip him. That is a game right there by Eddie Jackson. I'm giving him an A for his first half performance to handle the role of free safety, to slide in there. Demps went down. All the pressure goes on you. You don't know the NFL game. Yeah, you're still getting used to it, and really taking each and every game and every rep as a practice to catapult your level of play to the future. He is another golden piece to this puzzle that you're building in Chicago. And then Adrian Amos, talk about a guy who was cast aside. I think me and Lauren Cox were the only people standing up for him and the truth. I never backed down from it. I just talked the truth. Adrian Amos, I felt like, was miscast with a bad cast of surrounding talent, and it all became him, and that's why this whole narrative came to play. When you looked at the tape, the guy was fearless in the alley, playing banged up, injured, and really giving his heart and soul to each and every play. Now you see the football player he is when he doesn't have to worry about the corners. He doesn't have to worry about his free safety messing up the coverage and putting it on him. All of it is being taken care of. Adrian Amos has been a freaking masterful mash ball, destructing ball when he comes downhill. I mean, the hit he gave, what's his name from the Vikings, Riddick? Is that his? Why am I forgetting his name?
No.
The running back, not Riddick. He's with the Lions. McKinnon, thank you. I mean, clean as a cucumber, freshly peeled, and as hard as anybody can come in the alley I've seen. Finishing and sending a message. Did it again in the Saints game. Came out, stripped the football, got you the ball back, gave you an offense another opportunity to win the football game. Obviously, they came up short. Adrian Amos has been an A football player as well. I think Bear fans are getting spoiled to this defense. I think you need to recognize talent, and not only the talent, but the coaches putting them in position where they're best used. And really, ultimately, I can't say enough about those two safeties. There are a miracle in this season, just growing right before your eyes. Two young safeties, a position, Aldo, that we can go on for. I remember I did a tweet session. It took me like 7 tweets to go through the amount of safeties we've had since Mike Brown. So.
Yep.
To see 2 of them out there playing as well and as physical and as confident as they have, they've given the front line of defense the confidence to attack and get after the quarterback because they are playing physical and great. And I just wanted to make sure I gave them both their due.
And you did. Very well done, Draft Dr. Phil. All right. There are less than 2 minutes to go in this Detroit Lions Green Bay game as we record here live. And those of you who are listening, who will listen on the on the podcast version of this, make sure next week that you come over and join us at the mixlr.com page. That's where the chat is happening. And my goodness, the conversation that's going on here while we're talking and the people firing questions and commenting on what you're saying is just extraordinary. I'd like to figure out a way to bottle it and post it for everybody to see. Just a lot of fun stuff. It really is like a barroom camaraderie. So I've asked people to predict next week's score against the Packers. Phil, why don't you give it some thought while I read off some of these scores, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so here I lost my scores. Where are they? Kill some time, Phil, while I cue this up.
Well, I'm coming out with a new song, it's let me tease this. It is a Bears 100 proof show promotion song. So it's gonna be about Aldo, Shane, and myself, Barflies influence, and it's really gonna be focused on the truth. So that's your little teaser for what next week should be a fun show after Green Bay, and really release another song, and obviously keep downloading, sending, praising, whatever you're doing to get the Fire John Fox song out there to the national media. Go the extra effort. No one's gonna hurt you for trying. That's all we ask. We love the fact that you guys are vocal, that you're not afraid to praise the unfrauds. And really, it's been a must listen to some of your comments and your compassion and your real sense of football knowledge, because some of you are absolutely tremendous as far as football knowledge is concerned, much better than the professionals on the radio in Chicago and the television people. And really, you have a voice with us. And I try to shout you all out on 100 Proof. I try to include you, and I don't take anybody's opinion for granted. I will debate. I will go after people that are in the national media that are trying to run a narrative. Heath Evans and Matt Miller and Jim Miller, whoever it is, Aaron Lemming, I'll go after them for the truth. And your backing to Bears Barroom is deserving of more than we could possibly give right now. But to get to where we need to go, we need your help. And we promise, or I promise, I don't forget who praised, who helped, who loved, who shared, who went that extra distance on their Twitter account to praise someone. I think that says a lot about a person. I think the frauds will stay quiet and be afraid to actually praise Aldo Gandia and Bears Barroom Radio, what he produced and how much time you don't even realize how much time and energy and effort. Tonight we went off with no script. So Aldo's just using me as like a child. But really, ultimately, the production, the commercials, the video stuff, Aldo and myself, Shane does nothing. Let's not kid ourselves.
That's why he's the smartest man.
He's just, that's what makes him the smartest man.
Right.
He just lets me and you do everything. But really, ultimately, just look at one of our videos, for God's sake. What other site? And I don't mean to be praising us like this, but these are my barflies, Aldo. These are my peeps. And those people that couldn't be up listening and must listen to the podcast. And I love you too. I'm not afraid of that passion. obviously, Bears Barroom pulled me in. Aldo Gandia hugged me and said, "Be you," and didn't put any rules on me. And this is what has come. Songs and raps and jokes and segments and bear up and bear down and worst tweets of the week. Guess all that is? Our creativity coming to the top. And you guys love it and enjoy it, and I love and enjoy bringing it to you with passion. I really do. If you can't sense that in the show, or you dislike me, in my opinion, that's cool too. We can agree to disagree on stuff, and I'll still have passion that you could praise a guy staying up till late at night when he has work tomorrow and really loves this game the way Aldo and myself do. And you took that time out to promote the show. Bears Girl and Mamo. There's so many of you. Frankie and Nick. All of you just going out of your way to get Isaiah, and all of you going out of your way to get the message out there. You asked me to stall for time.
Well,
you get the Italian version.
Well, and you just mentioned Frankie. I want to tell all of our listeners, all of the Barflies, everyone, that Frankie is coming out with a multi-part series on Ryan Pace, General Manager Ryan Pace. That is something that you would read over at theathletic.com, but you'd have to pay for it. At the Bears Barroom, you'll get it for free. He's just done some excellent work with his research, and his writing is just a spot on, excellent. And Phil, before I do the scores, there was one question from Trey that I really got to get in here, or I'll hate myself. He asked that you please address the idiotic fans that were upset that Ryan Pace traded a conditional 7th-round pick for wide receiver Dontrell Inman.
It makes no sense to be upset with that, because Inman is someone who's done it. There's video evidence. He's a high point pass catcher. We're missing that. So to get on Ryan Pace to do something that's going to improve the personnel, you don't have that kind of athlete on your football field right now. Let's look at him real quick, Aldo. Your wide receiver core. We didn't even get into the coaches that we wanted to get into tonight. Top 9, coach 10.
Yeah, that's
my top.
We'll talk about it at 100 Proof tomorrow when we tape tomorrow.
All right. So we'll tease that for tomorrow.
There you go.
And you got to look at this kid Inman in reflection to what it is you don't have. Wheaton, speed guy. You lost Cameron Meredith, who is in. If I was comparing the two, that's the game that you're getting. Someone who's going to run his route, going to high point the football, pluck it out of the sky, and give you a chance at jump ball passes. He had that in Bug Howard out there, and the kid Hollins over in Philly. He doesn't have at North Carolina. I'm talking about Mitchell Trubisky at North Carolina. Had some athletes that could play the outside and jump ball game. Right now, who's giving you that? It hasn't been Gentry. I haven't seen what I expected of Gentry to come out on the football field. Trey McBride, he's only 6'1". Inman has the ability to run crisp routes, get up there. I think McBride is someone who's really somebody you should build on and continue moving forward with him. But I don't see at all a conditional 7th-round pick being a problem here. If you can get a quality football player, which I believe the kid is, he comes in here as your most polished wide receiver, and he's different than the point guards that you have at receiver right now. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and it's a great question, Trey. It's actually a great statement. It needs to be put on the record. There's somebody trying to do something different. I thought it was a freaking drop ball again by the head coach to not have that kid ready in 4 days and be able to translate what it is you want to do on a given package for the kid to help your quarterback. Well, again, just not my way of thinking, not my way of coaching. I felt like it was a mistake to not have him out there against the Saints.
Phil, when you're done here, head over to the MixLR chat page and just scroll down to some of the comments. You're gonna read some really interesting stuff and some funny comments. Like Trey Bissy just wrote, "Wheaton has done as much for the passing game as Kevin White."
It's true. I mean, Kevin White. You look at Kevin White. The guy's constantly injured. He's somebody I got. Lawrence shot out a quote from a show and it became misunderstood. I was basing it on injury, that he can't play here anymore. If he gets injured, well, what did he do? He got injured again. Mr. Glass. Yeah. Done. You can't. What are you basing that on? Kevin White should not even be a consideration of this franchise moving forward. If you're going to keep his contract, you're not keeping his roster spot as you did. And this is another thing, fraudulently put him as your number 1 or 2 wide receiver and say that's it, don't earn it. That kid should have been playing every goddamn snap in preseason all the way to the fourth quarter until he understands the route tree, until he makes plays, until we saw an NFL receiver. Kevin White, to me, was a mistake in the injury that set him back, and now you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and that is ridiculous. Now, Wheaton has been a huge letdown, huge, with all his injuries and where is he out, and John Fox's quote and his Aaron Lemming play both sides of the fence quote tonight. Well, I'm hopeful he might play. John, there's no advantage. Is he playing? Can he play?
Exactly.
Or not? Just come on. I mean, at this point, recognize the fan base and your franchise needs you to be completely honest. And that would go so much better on your behalf. But you're such a arrogant when you don't even have the showcase in the city to be such a way. It's like getting smacked twice in the face by someone, and it's just, fool me once. The Wheaton thing is just, I don't know, put him on IR and admit your mistake if he can't play, because he's not helping you. Get some guys in here.
Well, he was at practice today, so he may be activated for Sunday's game. We'll take a look. And speaking of Sunday's game, just want to tell you that the Green Bay Packers, now it's a final. They lost 30 to 17 tonight. Wow. And that's the last touchdown, I think, was scored with 0 seconds on the clock. Prior to that, they lost to the Saints 26 to 17. Prior to that, they lost to the Vikings 23 to 10. Those are the 3 games I believe they've played with Brett Hundley quarterbacking either as a starter or playing the majority of the snaps. I think he was injured against the Vikings. So I've asked the Barflies for their predictions on the game. I'm going to read a few of these off, and then, Phil, I want your thoughts. Early in the week, I know things can happen and stuff, but I got a feeling I know what you're going to say, because it's going to probably mirror a lot of what I've heard the Barfly say. Trey Busy has the Bears winning 24 to 13. Bears AJ has the Bears winning 27 to 9. Isaiah Robles has the Bears winning 21 to 6. Chris Armstrong says 20 to 13 Bears win. And then my favorite prediction is Benjamin Driscoula predicts Bears 27, Packers embarrassed. Hold on, Benjamin. Very good. Okay, Phil, give me your thoughts about this upcoming game, because really this turns out to be a pivotal game for the season. You blow this game for the season, and the Firefox campaign just kind of cruises all the way to the finish line without us doing anything, because the national media will probably jump on that, something that we've been talking about for months. So this really is a critical game and can give the Bears an opportunity to get back into the playoff picture. So what are your thoughts? Do you think the Packers are prime for defeat against the Bears?
Let me say, if this Chicago Bears team comes out and lays an egg on Sunday, and they're ill-prepared versus a team that I believe you're better than, I believe Aaron Rodgers covers a lot of warts. There's some good football players on the Packers. Not going to take anything away, but based on the quarterback position, they are living in what we know in Chicago in the sample of how many quarterbacks that we've seen come through here. Hundley, to me, is no threat to the Chicago Bears and the way this defense is playing. I honestly, it all boils down to coaching and putting your young quarterback behind the shotgun and using Jordan Howard to a multitude of ways and pounding the will out of Green Bay and building up the confidence. Because let's face it, Aldo, you're not joking. They're 4-4, and so are the Detroit Lions now. We've still played the Lions twice. You should have beat Minnesota. The referees played a role in that, and you had an opportunity to win. Minnesota's a good football team, but let's be honest. They're not keeping me up at night, and I'm scared. They really aren't. This Chicago Bear defense travels. Now they're coming home to play against a rival after 2 weeks, and the Packers are on a short week. So I'm telling you right now, for the Firefox people, I'm looking at this football team, the Bears, and I say behind the legs of Jordan Howard and the defense, as well as a really solid game from Mitchell Trubisky. I'm looking at the Bears 27
say that
Green
again.
Bay Packers.
Say that again.
27-10.
Okay.
Over the Green Bay Packers. I believe that's how far better the Bears are, and that's what the expectation of looking at and I'm sitting here discussing this stuff with a lock of fora eye on the television screen. So I was able to watch and take in I was able to take in the Detroit Green Bay game. Shane would be proud of me with the lock and fora. But, the expectation, you're home. You've had 2 weeks to prepare. You should be able to understand everything your rookie quarterback feels comfortable with, and you, in your own meetings, recognize how important number 24 is to your offense. With losing Zach Miller, the time is now to really pound the Green Bay Packers into oblivion. Put them out. Put Aaron Rodgers in a tizzy. Not Trey tizzy, busy, but them in a tizzy. Let him have all his commercials on every goddamn second. But you watch the Bears pummel them on a Sunday. And if it doesn't happen, as I was going to say, for the Firefox campaign and the song should be sung on Michigan Ave come when one of you has to step up and stand outside of Waddle and Sylvie's little glass window and start playing that song every day off your boombox or whatever. I'm challenging. I'm serious. I'm challenging.
I love the idea.
One of the barfly with a sign, Firefox. If you have to put on my boys' Firefox mask, what we saw, then put that on. And if we lose to Green Bay, somebody raise your hand and step up. And don't let it have to be Bears Girl all the way from Canada, for God's sake. You know what I'm saying? Somebody
Wait a minute, I'd love
up.
to see that.
Somebody standing out there and make Sylvie's and Waddle and all of them and JD's arrogant ass have to hear the fire and the truth spit on those bars, right, Aldo? I mean,
Yeah.
Could it be more truthful than Firefox? I mean, I'm tweeting out lyrics now just so
I love it.
media could get it. But yeah, he's got to be gone. If you lose to Green Bay, you're gone because it's like a shark in the water with blood. They're dead to rights, guys. This team, I mean, it should be a given that you have what it takes to bury this team. Not just beat them like 13-10. I'm talking 27-10. They kick a late field goal to make 10. I'm talking you should bury 35-10 if we're really cooking with water. Boiling water, rather.
Well, I tell you that if Bears Girl goes out there to ESPN and she's holding up a sign saying hashtag Firefox, I think that there's going to be about 100 guys out there along with her, including myself.
Not a plan, but an anthem.
Yeah, there you go. And now I got to tell you that I think we're going to officially change the title of this show to Bears Hour and a Half Live. We went a whole 30 minutes long on this show, and every doggone minute was super enjoyable because of Draft Dr. Phil. This is your show. This is your baby, and you bring it every single week. Like we said, unscripted. Chris Armstrong wrote on the chat room, what was it? I don't have it in front of me, but something like, hooray for unscripted, because you really brought an excellent job. I want to tell all of our listeners to please stop by bearsbarroom.com. Like I mentioned before, Frankie Myers is going to have the first of a 2 or 3 part series on Ryan Pace that really is extraordinary work. We've got a bunch of other cool things coming up. Tomorrow night, the three of us, meaning the Shane, the smartest man in the barroom, myself and Phil, we will tape Bears 100 Proof. Again, our signature show. Well, this Bears Hour and a Half Live could end up being our signature show. But we will tape Bears 100 Proof. We know how much you guys enjoy that and enjoy getting a laugh out of that. We'll work on that tomorrow night for podcast delivery on Wednesday morning. John Buffone's Buffone 55 is Thursday, 10 a.m. Central. That's live with
Go,
podcast
John.
version an hour later. And then Bears on Tap returns this upcoming week. And I got to line somebody up for that. I think I'm going to have Robert Trader, of a longtime Packers fan and a cohort of mine from last year's Packers Barroom, on to talk about the Packers. He's not going to be a happy man, and that's going to make me very happy because we all hate the Packers. Phil, say goodbye. I'm running out of music here. I got 5 seconds of music. Say goodbye, Phil.
All right. Fire John Fox.
There you go.
Listening in.
Hey, it's Aldo again. I just wanted to provide this little extra after the show. Draft Dr. Phil and I went into overtime. He shared some thoughts about Connor Barth and the Bears not bringing in somebody to compete with him for his job. And so I present that as a Bears Are Alive extra.
It started with Coach John Fox's comments about it is what it is in regards to the known elephant and giraffe in the room. That kind of attitude and approach, it is what it is not okay when you're the head coach of the charter franchise. And if that's okay with ownership and Ryan Pace and company, that your head coach is saying that based on what fans are paying top dollar to go and invest time and energy and their finances to support this team that they love, but at some point, not just based on the kneeling, we're talking about the energy of your family and the well-being of such, to have a head coach be as arrogant and obnoxious as saying that, and then ultimately to take this bye week and carry that it is what it is baton through the crowds of people and continue to be neglectful at the kicker position, to me, is completely neglectful and fireable for every reason under the sun. There's no way Connor Barth offers you any kind of consistency. And the fact that it hasn't been leaked by a Brad Biggs or one of these guys that they brought in kickers, to me, is a disappointment, because you're ultimately hearing Ryan Pace, well, the goal, guys, is to get better at every position and we want competition. Well, you saw what competition did to early Connor Barth. Later, Connor Barth kind of kicks his feet up and worries about his house that he's buying down south, instead of actually kicking in the north and south end zones through the uprights. That kind of energy from any player on a football field that's willing to take a lackadaisical approach, which you've seen. These are huge points that you needed against New Orleans. He's missed consistently. He's made a few, but really, ultimately, the lack of consistency and the lack of having competition be brought in, while you're still carrying Mark Sanchez, a fullback, you have all these roster spots to special teamers that are covering kicks. How about get someone in here that can actually push a kicker or get him out of town, which he ultimately deserves, and get yourself a quality young kicker that's going to come in here with energy and charisma and challenge himself. And before you say it can't happen, it has happened. It's happened all over the NFL. It even happened with Robbie Gould, who came in here as an undrafted kid who got cut by another team. Mm-hmm. Guys need a shot. Guys need people to believe in them. The fact that Connor Barth is still kicking for this franchise is a complete and utter letdown and a meltdown of epic proportions.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Draft Dr. Phil, and thanks for sticking around for this extra little bonus segment for the podcast. I got a feeling if the Bears go on a winning streak, I got a feeling that the Bears Hour Live show might be the Bears 2 Hour Live show, because we'll have so much more to talk about. Always a pleasure, Phil. Thank you very much for giving us an OT. Maybe we should do this every week, a little OT segment with Draft Dr. Phil.
OT.
Yeah, right? All right, brother.
Extras with the Draft Doc.